Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Subconscious beliefs and finding a way to bridge that consciousness gap. That sometimes we do things unknowingly. Sometimes we're thinking certain thoughts and we don't realize we're thinking it. Sometimes we say certain things in our mind or out loud, and we just say it and we don't really think about it. We don't pay attention to it. And I think one of the biggest drawbacks to many of our manifestations or problems that maybe we're having is that we have these beliefs that are embedded within us. We have these things that we don't ever realize we think. We don't catch ourselves saying it until someone, like you'll be talking to someone and you're like, da, 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 and then they're like, whoa, wait a minute, do you hear what you just said? And they're like, no, what do you mean? And then you repeat it back to them and they're like, oh, I didn't realize I was saying that. A lot of us do this, and I'll admit sometimes it can be a little challenging to catch because, again, it's happening unconsciously. Again, it's something that you think deep-seatedly, and it finds itself popping up, little comments, and that's where I notice it. People will say these little comments to ourselves. We'll be describing a situation, and we'll drop one of these comments in there, just not even thinking twice about it. And yes, I'm going to give some examples, don't worry. But again, sometimes these things just fall in front of us, and we don't see it. So a couple examples. Marriage. Marriage is kind of a good one, right? And a lot of people have very differing thoughts about marriage in general, certainly what's capable and not capable. But a lot of people are wanting to manifest marriage, and we have some people that maybe don't believe marriage lasts forever, right? Like that's a deep-seated belief within you, and yet you're trying to manifest a marriage maybe. Well, when you have this idea that marriages don't last forever, but you want to have the marriage that does last forever, but you don't really believe they do, well, you're actually holding yourself back from that because you've got a belief that doesn't allow for being married. So maybe you're like, why isn't this moving forward? Or why aren't I meeting the right person or whatever? And maybe it's because we've got some hidden beliefs around marriage. So some people, no one stays together forever. Maybe people marry forever, right? There's one concept. I've met a couple people that have been married for exceptionally long periods of time. But unfortunately, out where I live, certainly here in Southern California, divorce is super common too. Super common. So it's one of those things that can be a little bit difficult if being married is something you're interested in, but then society's the way it is, or maybe divorce is happening all around you. So sometimes it's one of those things where you need to step back. Now, in the case of divorce, what I find is what we focus on, we see more of. But again, this whole importance of this is to identify when we're having one of those blocking moments. Good example, the good ones are already taken. Have you ever heard anyone say that before? The good ones are already taken. They actually believe it. And they say it. And they're like, I don't know why I can't meet someone. It's like the good ones are already taken. And oh, yeah, no, I'll keep trying. No, I'll keep doing my manifesting techniques. You know, one of these days I'll get somebody. But you've got this deep-seated belief that doesn't really allow for that, does it? Because all the good ones are gone. That's a horrible world to live in. So it's one of those things you need to kind of grab the bull by the horns, pay attention to what's happening, and say, oh, no, that's not going to work for me. Are there any good men in the world anymore? God, especially nowadays. I mean, no offense with a lot of the social stuff that's going on and how, you know, one minute you can say something, the next minute you can't. And a lot of things are kind of being played against people, and stuff people have said 10 years ago is coming back up and haunting them. Like, woo, boy, you got to be really careful out there about what you say, right? So again, are there any good men in the world? There's probably a lot of women, maybe that we're trying to manifest a good guy, but we don't believe good guys exist. Maybe our dad was a jerk. And so we've got this idea that men are jerks. And maybe we keep attracting jerks and we keep wondering why. Why am I attracting jerks? Well, you have a belief that all men are jerks or that no good men exist anywhere. So again, one of those things they can bite us. And again, the way you see it is you'll see repetitions. I've talked about this a bunch, but you'll see patterns. It's when you have things that cycle through. You experience it again and again and again. And you're like, what is going on? Why do I keep cycling through this? Men should be tough. There's a good one, right? For guys, too, by the way. There's a lot of guys that believe that's how men should be. And there's a lot of women that believe men should be tough as well. And there's certainly a lot of guys that maybe aren't as tough as a lot of the tougher guys, like with all the tattoos and the giant muscles with muscles, the muscles that even have muscles. Their muscles have muscles. It's insanity. But at the same time, you ever heard someone say, but he's just not sensitive. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't feel things. Well, you wanted the protector. You wanted the macho buff guy. I mean, yeah, you could theoretically manifest. You could be very specific and be like, well, no, I want someone that's, he could crush a walnut with his fingers and he's sensitive and writes poetry, right? Okay, well, those guys are out there. I'm sure they are. But again, beliefs. Sometimes we'll have these strange beliefs and we keep, we keep dating the bad boys, or we keep finding that we're with people that don't have time for us maybe, or we keep finding repetition. What's causing it? What is it? What's the belief that we're holding that's causing a challenge for us? People are mean. No good people out there. People are evil. Rich people are evil. People with money are bad. A lot of us are trying to manifest more money in our life. How many of you actually believe that money corrupts, or that you can't actually be happy, or money can't buy happiness is what a lot of people say. My girlfriend says that all the time, and I keep reminding her, I'm like, well, honey, it's not that the money's buying happiness. You can be happy already and have money, and that's freaking awesome. And she's like, well, you're right. And see, that's how it works. Again, if you believe people with money are evil, and yet you're trying to manifest money in your life, it's not going to work for you. It's not going to. You're fighting yourself every step of the way. So how many of us are holding ourselves back? I've done it. There's so many subconscious beliefs, and you'll find them along the way, and it's a step, it's a process. It's not like you're going to find them all on one Saturday. You're going to be sitting at home on a Saturday, twiddling your thumbs, going, that's it, today I'm going to find all of my subconscious foibles. No, probably not going to play out very well. It's just not going to. You're going to find them over time. When you do find them, they usually are happening you're seeing them at the right time, right? You're already trying to fix something that you've noticed you keep doing over and over. You're like, all right, I got a pattern forming here. We need to start paying attention to what's going on. What do I believe that sort of relates? Remember, it's a focus-based universe, right? So what we focus on is what we experience more of. When we're seeing repetition, what is in that repetition that we believe about ourselves? Or what is this a manifestation of? And yeah, you're right. That can be challenging to see. But maybe you're always finding people that don't have time for you. Well, are you maybe believing that you're not worthy of the time? Are you maybe you never had time? Maybe your dad never had time for you, so that's just kind of normal. So that's what you expect. Like men just don't have time, or successful people don't have time, so that's okay. I'm with a successful person, so they just don't have time. So we make reasons and we make excuses for the way we keep attracting things to ourselves. But sometimes, maybe if we tweak that belief, that we actually start to tweak what we manifest. We start to manifest different things. We start to succeed where we were originally failing. We start to heal parts of ourselves that need healing too. That's a big part of it. A lot of times, again, if it's one of those things that goes back to childhood, maybe the way your dad treated you, your mom treated you, whatever. It's one of those things where when we finally see it and finally acknowledge it and realize, oh my God, that really has played an impact on my life. You change it, you move forward, but it's not one of those things where you constantly tell people, well, this is what happened, this is what I got from my childhood. Because then you're just reliving it. Now that's like a title that you wear underneath you, right? It's like a placard. You're like, oh, yes, but I was abused, or, oh, yes, I was not hugged enough, or whatever. No, you don't want to do that. You want to acknowledge that maybe you weren't hugged enough, and then understand, all right, well, that's why I like to get hugged now. That's why I've got friends, and I always hug them when I see them. Cool, so I'm making that better. Awesome. And then now that I understand how I'm going to improve that and what matters to me, and that hugging, and I'm a very affectionate and touchy-feely person, so I know that a relationship that in my life is going to require hugging, And I know I didn't get it enough as a child, but instead of telling people that, I'm just going to be a hugger. I'm just going to talk about, yeah, I like to hug. Hugging's fun. It's just a cool way to say hi to somebody or whatever, right? Like, I just, it's just the way I am. Instead of, and a lot of us do this because we want, one, our ego is involved, usually, but two, it's kind of that I did something good in my life and I want to tell you about it so you can do something good about your life. Like, there's sometimes good intentions behind why we do it. Problem is, you still keep associating yourself to something in the past. You don't let it go when you do that. So you got to let it go too. You don't want to just keep bringing up the fact that I wasn't hugged as a child for 20 years and just every time it ever seems appropriate to bring up, then you do. Like that, no, that's probably not going to help you or anybody else. And it's actually prolonging that phase of your life, if you will. And you will still kind of continue to have some of those things manifest when you're still like associating to it like that. So again, kind of want to let things go. You want to find them, you want to embrace them, you want to love them, and then you want to move on. And you will notice that the patterns start to change in your life. You start to see things disappear that maybe have been a challenge for you for a long period of time. Beliefs are tricky. A lot of the times it might be a friend that points it out to you. You're like, you keep talking positive, but you keep saying this. And then a lot of that will take the moral high ground and be like, well, no, I'm just being real, or no, I'm just something. And it's like, but if anyone else said that to you, you'd be like, that's not an acceptable reason. That's not okay. No, don't be real. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what do you want to create? What do you want to focus? Let's focus on that. I know reality might creep in. No. That's not how manifesting works, right? You're believing on having that thing you don't have. So, again, beliefs, they can help you if you get them in a good place. I believe anything can happen. I believe the sky's the limit. I believe it's an overly abundant universe. Beliefs can be wonderful, and they can open doors for you. But when we're having problems manifesting, when we're seeing patterns happening in our life, look to the beliefs. You're probably going to find something there that's a little juicy, a little tender. Maybe it's bruised, but you're going to find your answer. And when you do, you can make it go away. And that's the best part about the whole thing. Hopefully this helps, guys. Stay in radio style.